as a way to control food prices and offset inflation. The country's new economy minister has also signed an agreement with a supermarket chain to maintain 2007 prices for 16 key foodstuffs throughout the year. So let's talk about this. It's pretty much an issue throughout the entire Gulf, probably with the exception of Kuwait, which has a floating peg at this point in time. Raghavan Sitharaman is the CEO of Doha Bank and joins me now from Qatar. Good to see you this evening, sir. Very nice for you to come in, and very nice tuxedo as well. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the Gulf, because everybody is fascinated. You've got the situation where obviously the energy story is heavily related to what you're doing, but you've also got this issue with what's happening with the dollar peg. How much of a pressing concern is it when you're actually dealing with it on a day-to-day basis?
It is a pressing issue. The entire region has been booming. The 6 countries put together, GCC countries, is growing at an enormous pace. If you look at it, 45% of the world oil, 20-25% of the world gas is there. That's one factor. The national income is growing over 20%. GDP is growing over 17%. Projects worth of trillions. At the same time, inflation is an issue. Essentially, when you integrate with the immigrant labor, people, process and technology to support the infrastructure creation as well as industrial expansion, you need stable resource. So with the inflation is threatening the overall labor force, it's an issue to watch out. The government is taking steps. There are low-cost housing being initiated. Rent control measures are being taken. As you rightly said, the food control measures are being adopted. So it's a challenge for the government. The regional space is vibrant, and I'm sure the government will sort out in the coming days. Dollar peg has been the committed policy. They're not going to de-link, as I see it. It's more than economics, as you know. Conceptually, it's a long-standing relationship, but individual currencies will have its own sovereignty in its own wisdom, and they have their convergence criteria with a long-term focus on common currency. So it is up to the GCC leaders. Essentially, de-pegging is not an immediate option. Perhaps the long term we have to look at objectively and see how to go forward.
It would clear up a lot of issues, though, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. You have an inflation which needs to be managed, measured, and controlled. And the emerging economies as a whole is going through the phase. Developing Asia is going through the phase. The region has to necessarily temper it so that you have long-term prosperity in the making.
Looking at your business, looking at the financial sector within the Gulf, obviously expanding very rapidly of late, and you've seen it across the entire Gulf. Doha is as big a player as anybody else and wants to continue to push along those lines, but the markets are saturated. How do you grow your bank, given the fact that actually there's already a lot of banks on the ground? The rest of the Gulf's looking to become a global player. What are your plans?
Your local market has become global. Your real estate sector has opened up. Financial centers have come in. Dubai Financial Center, Qatar Financial Center, Bahrain Financial Harbor. So what do? You have to go global. If you have to sustain your credibility, you have to take care of your shareholders, stakeholders. Essentially, you have to go global. Wherever you have economic linkages within the GCC definition or within the Qatari definition, so we have to go. That's what we have done. We have made sure that we become a regional player. We have opened our office in UAE. Dubai is our cross-border operations. Kuwait is coming up. We have also seen economic linkages in Japan, Singapore, Turkey, again China, India. These are the markets which are
You're looking east, though, by the sounds of things.
Not necessarily be. We have options to look at acquisitions in the Europe. US is our major trade link. Essentially, Doha Bank has got its operation in Wall Street. We are exploring further options in Houston. So it's a globalization. We are into it in a prudent form.
And you can now fly to Houston direct as well, I understand. Let's talk a little bit about the JV. 6 months ago, well, actually a few months ago, I read something that you said that you were going to be signing some sort of a major international JV within the next sort of 6 months. Give me some hints about what you're looking at.
Conceptually, we need to look at the emerging markets, or the markets which have got a long-term prosperity. Eastern Europe is an important area. If you look at within the Euro definition, clearly they're growing between 7% to 8% GDP. We are looking at acquisition option in the Eastern Europe. For example, Romania is an option. And similarly, when it comes to Turkey, we are looking for acquisitions. When it comes to Asian markets, India is an option. And China.
Again, but these are all east, though, aren't they?
No, there's a change in market preference if you look at it.
Every time I get into the Gulf, everybody tells me we're looking east, we're looking east.
The West is growing. There are areas of opportunities where we have to look at objectively. It depends on the economic opportunities between trade, investment, banking, and finance as a whole. So it depends on what sort of financial service you have. If you have banking, insurance, stock market operations or brokerage, asset management, then the West is a better composition than the East. If you're looking only at banking, perhaps you have to look at East or developing Asia.
We will find out, and we will look forward to it as well. Thank you very much indeed for coming in and seeing us this evening, sir. Raghavan Sitharaman, the CEO of Doha Bank.